Okay. Oh, Angelique's coming. Okay, perfect. Let her log in before we start. Okay. Okay. Hey, Angelique. We hit record. We're gonna get into it. And yeah, so what first on the agenda, we'll just do a brief overview of this project. It will not be long. Everybody is familiar. What I'm gonna do is share my screen and show you where everything is and make sure that everybody has access to those folders. But this is the 2024-2025 HOPWA Workforce project coordination team, whatever verbiage we choose to use. These will be the individuals involved. Our goal right now, just for Greater Hartford, is to provide career opportunities, continue career opportunities, provide training opportunities for folks who are living with HIV, to re-enter the workplace, learn about the workplace, reminisce about the workplace and everything that comes with it. Keep in mind, you do not, and Jill and Mark taught me this last year, you do not have to be ready to start tomorrow in order to take advantage of this project. So we really want to be clear on that. So let me share my screen, please and thank you. Okay. You guys see the drive? Okay, you don't see the nuclear codes or anything? Okay. So this is where everything will live. Obviously, it is not full because we just started this term, but every single one of the meeting minutes will be in here. Every single one of the agendas will be in this folder. We have our coordination team documents, and that's pretty much for us, names, contact information, anything that you contribute. For example, last year, Jill and Mark were able to find me a sheet that spoke to this project years ago, and that is also in there for reference. So that's how that will look. And the last thing that we added at the HOPWA Workforce Zoom recording. So every single recording will be converted and uploaded to this folder. Just to piggyback off what Abby said, if you do not end up being the permanent person, you obviously still have access, and whomever that is, let me know, and I will give them access to this folder. And that's it. That is the overview of this project. We're going to work inside our expertise and contribute based on our expertise to make this a successful project term. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Erica, really anybody on this team, and we'll get those answers for you.
Brandon, do you want to mention like what we've done to date so far?
Sure. So since this most recent inception, we have had several virtual meetings. One is understanding your benefits while working. That happened earlier this spring, and then a following one about a month later called "What to Do Now," which is an amazing title that our folks over at National Worker Positive Coalition came up with. It's one thing to know about your benefits and what you can do and what may be a challenge, but we want to see this full. We want to see this come through. So what happened is we organized a virtual session, which will also be updated. Thank you for that, Joe. I forgot to put that up there. And after that, we did some in-person trainings. We split it down the middle. The first in-person training was for providers only. To get all the questions answered, to get all the material that can help their clients in the interim. And then the most recent event that we had was last month, where we had a HOPWA Workforce Project Summit, conference, training, whatever word we want to use, but that was open to both providers and community members to essentially see all of this in action, hear from some stakeholders within the community, within the region. And that's what we've done so far. So we're looking to not only continue that, we are looking to expand on that. We have also, last but not least, we've included but not financial institutions, educational institutions as well, because we know that school can come with work, work can come with school. So we want to make sure that everybody is involved. Okay, so next on the list, Tamara, Erica, and Megan are going to talk about some outreach updates, plans for the future, plans that are happening right now. So the floor is yours. Let me know if you need to share the screen, and I'll make that happen for you.
So I guess I can start off that. that outreach updates overall. So I know, well, actually, Tamara, did you want to share what you've been working on last week with Jill and all the
Yes.
things that you've learned?
I have been working with Jill and learning more about not housing, job opportunities, and just getting resources from her. So we connected and that was really fun. I appreciate it, Jill. You're awesome.
So I think I love the little hearts, Mark.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
so
know we
Can
could
cute.
do that. Yeah.
I
Yes,
interrupt?
Jill. Of
Like
course.
you so underestimated this was a 3-time training because we couldn't get through it all. Generally, I can do the workshop. It's called Access, an informational workshop on how to navigate the system of services that assist individuals with disabilities. And it's a whole gamut of answering the most frequently asked questions. And she asked questions for every single slide. She was so thorough. She was amazing and committed to
Tamara.
learning this information that it literally took us like 3 days, not full days, but we had to meet 3 times to get through the workshop. So don't underestimate yourself. You did a great job. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Tamara's
it.
solid. She was making it happen on the hill about 4 months ago. Making it so yes, thank you.
Um, so one of the pieces of, since Tamara's role is changing with us a little bit, we were discussing, and I had sent it over to Mark and Angelique, what we were thinking off of the top of our heads for roles and responsibilities for Tamara's new employment navigation and housing specialist, whatever it is that we're calling her overall. And I'm not sure if Mark or Angelique, if you had time to take a look at that, because I was thinking we could discuss if there's anything that we think should be added or adjusted or um anything like that. Because I think the first steps really were for Tamara to get on board and understanding um all of the key stuff with Jill. But now operationalizing her role of navigating folks who, I mean, we were mainly thinking folks who are in our emergency housing program, trying to navigate those folks as they enter, because we're already working with them on housing navigation. So incorporating Tamara into that process is where we were initially thinking. But Angelique or Mark, if you have thoughts on that at all.
I really appreciate you sharing the information with me, and I understand that it's sort of a relatively early stage of defining how pieces will fit together. I will confess that um, it feels like a bit of a challenge to be the employment person as well as these other important roles and responsibilities. Um, I think in that context, my sense is that where maybe the opportunity to prioritize in what may be possible is to sort of have a campaign with individuals and the group of folks that Tamara may have contact with to have them understand her as the contact and support for any stage of considering work, whether it's needing work today or yesterday, or whether it's considering possibly going to work in the next 6 months, or just wondering about if maybe at some point in the coming years that may be becoming part of someone's priorities. The goal, and for that to be understood in the context of way too many of us being trapped in poverty and with a real conviction that our options are super limited. So Tamara's representing to folks access to information, understanding, and support for a wider array of options for considering and discussing and connecting with services, with information, with resources, with no pressure to make change that folks don't define as their priority themselves, and to support them in considering their options, with an overarching priority for helping folks live their best lives, period. Whether that includes paying work or does not, for minimizing the impact that HIV has in the lives of folks living with it in the Hartford area, and with clear eyes responding to a host of inequities that folks who are participating in the program that she will have contact with have been subject to. Essentially, it's ACT and Tamara herself leveraging power and resources for folks who have among the least access to it. So it's, I think I'm awkwardly expressing that I feel like a big part of what can be most important with limited time and energy to devote to the employment piece specifically is to have the result that with the individual she works with and in the community, she becomes understood as representing this objective, this value, and this set of information, services, and resources, can pull out that huge ring of keys in her pocket that may open all kinds of different doors that may lead where options and services and information and resources may match what people are interested in and ready for, and may open avenues to opportunity. I'm hoping, it sounds like we've been incredibly lucky to have Tamira be the person, the individual who lands this job, because what is going to make change in Hartford is having someone who is going to build a connection with and an understanding of the amazing resources that do exist around the community that can be leveraged to benefit individuals who I think in the past have frequently not had a chance to even know they exist, much less their eligibility to access them or encouragement and support for taking the steps, which can sometimes be not that easy to utilize them. So having a partner, a supporter, but also someone who cultivates those relationships and is really in a process of attempting to build knowledge and capacity for supporting folks in considering and pursuing goals for employment is inevitably going to result in some percentage of folks who might not have gotten opportunity for positive change to be a part of their lives to happen.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah,
Angelique, did you have some? Oh, so there you go.
yeah, I think Erica, I mean, I missed this email. I'm just glaring on it right now. I think we need to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit on some of her tasks, because it's heavily in the direction, while we can have this on paper, there need to be an underlying
Well, I
tone
think
with
that's
it.
the part that we have to piece together, since she is technically under a housing role.
Yes.
So I think it's being crafted in a way where we're adding employment on to each end of housing navigation with employment connection in some capacity, referral process. So I think on that end, if you want to let us know, Angelique, maybe send back your notes so that we can adjust what you're thinking on there. Because we were thinking to start with someone who, as she's beginning navigation, starting with folks that are being referred to us already, since we're
Mhm.
still developing a formal careware referral process for the program, which hopefully we'll be able to get up and running with yourself and Tamika at some point of
Yeah.
how people will refer in careware. And then once we have all of those pieces, I think we could have you know, an email that goes out to everyone, a session with case managers. I mean, at our collaborative case management meeting that has Ryan White and HOPWA folks at it, we could have Tamara do a brief presentation to introduce herself and what she'll be doing in the employment navigation. Yes, Mark.
I was just going to mention that if a position is funded in part or totally by Ryan White funds, that it absolutely cannot represent the expenditure of Ryan White dollars on employment services or job readiness services.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if her position is Ryan White funded.
So it's Ryan White funded under housing. And so I understand why Erica draft the description as is, because it doesn't shed the light on the navigation, the employment navigation components as bright as, you know, we would have loved to have done it had we have that leeway to do it that way. But I also want to be mindful that the Planning Council just add directives
that
for
was
linkage and
yeah.
referrals into this mechanism as well via case management. So there's got to be a different way for us to make this intentional without overriding the restrictions that HRSA has also set in place for us. So I want to kind of speak to Andre because Reverend McGuire, he's done a significant amount of work. He's the co-chair for the Planning Council right now. So he understands because we're facing a federal audit in May. So we want to be able to ensure that we're intentional with this work, but not to the point where we get ourselves into some issues with the federal government, but still meet the needs of people with HIV who want to get back into the workforce. So I say a lot, but I want to make sure that we're also doing what is necessary to get people back to work without getting the TGA into a whole list of issues with the feds.
Andrew, go
Could
ahead.
I just ask a one quick question? So this position is not at all HOPWA funded. It is entirely Ryan White funded.
Yeah,
Got
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. So we're looking at mostly looking at linkage. While we know what we're doing, we're quantifying it as linkage to the employment arena, just to be on the safe side. Now Tamara will know what she needs to do. Where's Mark?
Second
Oh,
row.
there you are. You moved on my screen. Tomorrow is going to be quite aware of what she needs to do. But while she's doing the work, we can't necessarily take the credit for it on the Ryan White side, except to point to, as a result of this collaboration, X amount of people have re-entered the workforce. Does that make sense?
When I raised my hand, I was going to point to something that I put in the chat, and that was one of the keys that I used while I was there at HRA. The goal of each one of our case managers is to try to move those that are able towards independence.
Mm-hmm.
Independence includes a whole lot of stuff, which normally includes employment. So without saying, we're going to find everybody a job, these are the goals, to move them towards independence so that we can free up space for people that's coming behind us.
Yeah. Perfect.
And too, Angelique, I don't know if you were you only mentioning that case management had the adjustment in the directives? Because we also added in the housing category, we added linkage to employment services, like a focus on linkage to employment services in our housing directive. So I think that that's huge too, to be able to speak back to that overall as the housing support services provider is ACT typically. So if there are future other folks that are going to be doing this work, they also need to keep in mind the linkage to employment referrals.
Yeah.
So
and the Planning Council did put money to sustain this position beyond 2024 as well. So not only did the Planning Council adopt their directives, but they put money behind this process as well.
Great. Thank you for that.
those are exciting updates on that end.
Amazing.
I think
Anything else?
go ahead, Mark.
At least for Tamara, who's hearing her position talked about this way and that way, but maybe for everybody, just if and maybe everybody knows this already, but the regulations coming from DC for Ryan White have expressly stated that Ryan White dollars cannot be used for employment services or job readiness services. It may be helpful moving forward in the future to think in terms of how the one federal agency funding stream that expressly allows the HIV specific dollars to go to addressing employment services is actually HOPWA. HOPWA explicitly allows under the supportive services category the delivery of employment services. But Ryan White has just really had their arms tied behind their back historically from the beginning of the epidemic when it comes to employment.
I think it's going to be important because we have done this as a TGA in past years with other funding streams, where we look at what we're funding and what we can't fund under Ryan White. And if that funding stream, and we started a conversation with Cheryl, I think we just need to expand on that conversation, where there are some subcategories that Cheryl is funding that the Ryan White Nation can fund. We probably should start talking about allowing Ryan White to fund those services while she take a more intentional stance on the employment component.
Right on, possible help. That would be really cool. Okay.
That's a great message to take to the National Ryan White HIV/AIDS Program Conference.
Is there anything else with any outreach updates, Megan, Erica, Tamara?
I think the only other thing, and it's not explicitly said in that agenda item, but I think the only other conversation relating to that is, I know there was mention of rebranding how we're marketing this project when it comes to any future events or anything like that, because we've been calling it like HOPWA Workforce Project internally and sort of outwardly on flyers. But there's been conversation about how that's not really accessible, especially if we're trying to actually get community members involved and folks with HIV. You know, the last flyer sort of looked like a case management like meeting kind of thing, and we ended up getting a lot of case managers. So I think I wanted to maybe, as part of this meeting, if there are any thoughts or ideas on how best we want to be representing this. I know Angelique had some thoughts that she had been giving to me. I don't know if others have thought about that since the last meeting that we had.
Reverend McGuire or Juan, when you were searching for employment, what would have been some of the things that you would wish you had seen that kind of put you in the right direction towards seeking those services? That I think that's the kind of thing I'm trying to figure out. What if anything that could have been done differently to kind of make it more glaring for you that this is an entity or these are services that you could access a certain way?
I think the whole process, and again, the process for me would begin with case management, because generally speaking, case management at the time I was going through only focused on making sure that you had your meds and stuff correct. They really didn't even talk about anything else. They didn't talk about trying to help people become independent. They didn't talk about any of that stuff, so it really, it's got to start there. They're the first people that actually see somebody, the first people that actually talk to somebody. As a part of their case management plan, they have to have the mindset of independence, and if they have the mindset of independence, they're going to have to ask questions related to those things. But then hopefully they'll have access, to the different places. And that's what I was thinking when you talk about rebranding, as opposed to saying HOPWA, as opposed to saying housing independence. Try to figure out some kind of way to use that word or that concept, because most people living with HIV don't really want to be dependent on the state for the rest of their life, because they know the money's drying up, and then they'll be stuck out there, so something to allow them to know that there's freedom at the end of this rainbow.
Yes, Mark.
I had a thought before Andre began to speak, but then he said such powerful things that my mind went somewhere else completely. About branding, now I remember. If I am someone who is either looking to move a percentage of the population of people living with HIV off of benefits, out of programs and into independence, from a systems perspective, I'm going to respond to branding that is focused on like the Hartford HOPWA workforce development. Workforce development is even a phrase that I have some ambivalence about as an employment-focused person, because it feels to me like it's more paying attention to what employers' needs are than what workers' needs are. But if I'm a person living with HIV, if I'm looking at language, I'm responding if the branding seems to really be centered on and focused on my quality of life, not workforce development, not expanding the population of people who are making money for people or getting work done, but rather my quality of life. So at the moment, I don't have the brilliant solution to branding and titling on the tip of my tongue, but I just want to so strongly encourage that in the combination of things that may improve our outreach and engagement of people living with HIV, if we can succeed in including in that some creativity, and creativity is sometimes available and sometimes not within services systems. But if we can engage some to come up with some branding that actually speaks to the lives and experiences and priorities and needs and interests and opportunities of people living with HIV, I think that would be a really great thing for this project. And I so appreciate that it's not considered just sort of a small thing at the margins, but actually important enough to center a conversation on.
Yeah, I will say that once something is decided upon, we do have someone at ACT that would be able to create that for us. Like Jen would typically create any sort of like material for flyers, or so if we have like that creativity end, we could go to her for that support.
The creative piece I'm talking about especially is the part that may have to come from us, which is creatively thinking in terms of
how to
Language.
get that. Like I'm thinking right now that I would need to go to her and almost be somehow show her this recording even of you, Mark, explaining like exactly what we're looking for here so that she's understanding too, because sometimes we're saying, hey, we need a flyer for this event, but what the purpose and who we're actually trying to speak to and et cetera is not something that she would gain without that piece of it. Abby, I see you had your hand up too.
Hi, yes, I know I'm new to this group, but I think really changing the focus to like what Andre was saying, away from sort of the word employment to independence. Because one of the things that I see a lot is, and I get calls, and I just got a call, my rent went up. How do I make my rent go back down? And so it's changing that mind thought of, because old school case management was you're dependent on us for the rest of your life. I tell people when they enter the program, my goal is that you don't need people like us in your life anymore, that you can do it on your own. So I think creatively changing it to that independence picture, I think would be more appealing than just sort of get a job sort of mentality. And I think that I like that way of thinking about it a lot. Because again, a lot of folks then, when they're in the program for a long time, get sick and tired of case managers being in their business all the time. And the goal is that we shouldn't be for the rest of their life. They should be, yes, your rent's going to change and some things are going to change, but the level of independence to your own self and life outweighs anything else. So I think trying to market that a little bit more creatively would be good.
If I may add, I'm sorry, I can't really find a hands up button. So if I may add something here, since I do have to make a hard stop, I am on my break from work. If you guys are okay with me adding something.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, so in my experience, living with a virus for 20 years and also having a social worker, having a social worker, to your point, can be tiring, and then being in my business. So one thing that my social worker did a great job in is pretty much identifying what my interests were. And what my interests are actually is becoming a social worker, right? So she's set she set a guideline, or set the paveway, or gave me the direction better on what I needed to do to get an employment, or an employment that's going to make me happy and stay employed, because that's an area of interest that I have. So being on this side, being a client, it's pretty important for me to know, or at least for my social worker to tell me like, hey, this is what you need to do. These are the ideas that you have. These are your interests, so that you can remain employed. And while remaining employed, you can gain a sense of independence. And again, my social worker did a great job at identifying what my interests were. So my suggestion is pretty much get with your client, identify what their interests were. It could be somewhere, something as simple as being, a clerk at a pharmacy. Anything that sparks their interest, so like that they can be employed, and in hand they can gain independence. You can't gain independence if you don't know what the hell you're doing in life. So excuse my French. So that's one important thing that my social worker did with me, is to pretty much identify what is it that I'm looking for, get employment, and then pretty much follow my path into what I wanted to do that's going to make me happy, stay employed, long-term employment, and gain independence. And right now I'm working somewhere where I'm happy, but it's not something where I want to be going long-term. So again, it's just my take in that, if I make any kind of sense here.
Thanks for sharing that.
Josie, go ahead.
Of course. But I do have to make a hard stop, guys. I do apologize. My break ended, and I have to get back to work.
No worries. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for joining us, Juan.
We'll talk to you soon.
Fabulous.
Of course. I'll see you guys next time.
All righty.
Thanks, Juan.
I was
Okay.
going to suggest the title maybe empowerment through employment. So I think it creates a different type of conversation where it puts like less emphasis on lacking and more emphasis on growth and opportunities. So I think sometimes when we talk about employment, sometimes we we want people to get into the workforce and everything, but it's not for everyone, right? So I think empowerment, it's a really good word to use.
Good choice. There was something else I was thinking about. The other issue that I found when I was in the job search, in the housing really search, was it was tiresome to me that anytime I went to somebody with regard to employment, if I went to 10 different people within the same month, everybody wanted to do a resume.
Right.
Didn't matter what my skills were, didn't matter what I had, everybody wanted to do a resume. Then they wanted to do interviewing skills. And then they had certificates for this and certificates for that. And after you completed all the certifications, there was no job. And for me, that's extremely frustrating. So we really need to have someone responsible for developing a quote unquote job bank. And I mean an inclusive one, because when I come out, everybody initially is saying, oh, well, you can work over here in maintenance, you can work over here. And I'm like, look, I have a bachelor's, I have an associate's and a Juris Doctorate. There are other things that I'm capable of doing, and many of the people that are living with HIV don't have limited skills. They have really expansive skills. So we need to make sure that we have somebody. Don't just it's so tiresome. It's frustrating, every time I go to somebody, every time you have to take this interviewing skills. You have to go through this resume writing. Look, I'm pretty doggone good with the English language. I write rather well. I can do a lot of that stuff. I need to have direct input towards a job. As a matter of fact, now here's a blessing. And just to show you how this really works, Jill was one of the people I was initially working with. And this is what she said to me, because I used to be down there getting on everybody's nerves right at the American Job Center. I was down there from 9 o'clock in the morning till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And people was like, why are you down there so much? I said, well, if I was at work, I would be working from 9 to 4. So this is my full-time job, trying to find a doggone job. So she said, give me your resume. The next time I go somewhere where somebody's looking for somebody, I'm going to personally give them your resume. That's how I got my first job. So it works.
People not want ads will get your job faster, right, Andre?
That's right.
No, I agree with that actually, because although we provide the skills and resources and so on and so forth, I do think that we need to acknowledge out loud that just because people are in these programs doesn't mean that they're not at different parts in their lives. There could be somebody who has the resources, who's educated in this particular field, but just needs the opportunity, the tangible one. It's like the example where, somebody's saying, oh, well, if you want to work for yourself, just start a business or go to this class. And then they're like, well, I know how to do that. I just need the liquid. Like I need something I can put in my hand. And it's the same ideology for employment. Piggybacking off what everybody said, I really like all of these ideas, especially because yes, we're providing the opportunity. Yes, we're providing the training. Obviously, these are in order. The connections to educational institutions. That's why I specifically say educational institutions and not colleges and universities, because that too can say, well, what I'm specifically looking for is this. And lastly, Andre, I really like the idea about connecting people. Maybe we have a light at the end of the tunnel that says, okay, so you did this through the 2024-2025 season. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the Yargos area and have a career fair or have an educational fair. And yeah, so I like these ideas, and I will make sure that we keep everybody updated. I did want to say I want to keep everybody on time, and I know that we had one more piece.
Yeah.
So Erica, to finish it off.
Well,
yeah, it's all you.
Yeah. I was just gonna say to kind of wrap up the conversation with all of the ideas of how to brand the next phase, I guess, if you will, of the project overall. I was thinking I could maybe work with Jen to come up with a few different ideas based off of what people are sharing, because I think, I mean, if there were some that stood out in terms of like, see a lot of stuff of employment through empowerment, pathways to independence. So so I can have her put together a few different things.
And Erica, don't forget PEC is there as well. There's quite a few educated, well-versed, well-articulate individual that attends the PEC. They're about 10, 12 people
Right.
strong. Each meeting that we can bounce stuff off of those folks as well. Just to make sure
Yeah,
that we
that's a
get
great
the right
idea.
level.
So if we have some, yeah, to get further feedback on those, I think that's a great idea. Yes, Jill?
Yeah, I just wanted to address real quick, Abby's comment about the employment search isn't, one size fits all. One of the things that we're doing is we're very aware of that, Abby, in this project. One of the things that we're doing is first making it very clear to our case management and housing providers that they don't have to be the expert. They have to know who the experts are so that they can navigate them effectively to the right program for them, okay? And then the other thing that we're doing is a model called the Integrated Resource Team. So we're not going to just tell a job seeker, go down to the American Job Center, go to BRS. We're going to make sure that we have those wraparound supports, their Chrysalis Center staff, hypothetically, if they do go through Voc Rehab and the American Job Center because they want training, then we're going to put together that team, that Integrated Resource Team, to be able to support the individual. So I just wanted you to know where we're at with that. So, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Jill.
you.
And Mark, for your question, are there any groups, people, that can be asked the responses? So, Angelique just mentioned the Positive Empowerment Committee that we have at our planning council. So that's one group that that meets about once a month. We have psychosocial support groups that meet in Manchester once per week, and in Hartford once per week. Not sure about New Britain. Angelique, do you know how frequently? Is it once a week too, at least?
They meet quite frequently, at least once a week.
Okay. Okay. So we have some other groups that we could ask for input as well that are already existing too. I think we actually already covered, because the last thing was discussing referral process, like a formalized referral process for the employment navigation, but we sort of already talked about that a little bit earlier, as that comes together. So I was just gonna say, I know that Cheryl from the city of Hartford joined us, and I just wanted to see if she had anything to add, or just say thanks for joining us, Cheryl. I don't know if she's able to hear us, because I see she's muted still.
Well, and we get an opportunity in about 5 minutes or 6 minutes to introduce the project again to the TGA, just to let folks know that Tamara is existing as a navigator, and so that they'll know who the point person is. So at each step of the way, we have been reiterating that this project is live. And now that we have a body in the spot, we can also try to start introducing tomorrow to the TGA as well.
That's fine. We have the time tomorrow. I mean, we would make the time, but it can be done.
I had you guys hidden, and I apologize.
okay.
This is Cheryl, and then I had to find where the mute was. Anyway, I'm just wanting to be here to listen, to be an ear, to figure out. We do want to support this initiative in any way we can. And so I'm just always, my ears are open for ways that we can provide that support to you in a way that we haven't been able to in the past, that might require more resources. And so, one of the things that I heard today from Andre, I think, was about the frustration of job training programs that don't end up with jobs at the end of them. And I do know that HUD feels the same way. And so in our other HUD programs, our CDBG programs, for example, we look for places to create those kinds of programs that do have jobs at the end of them, to encourage groups to start an employment program where there is a relationship with a set of employees, with a set of employers, who at the end of that, should the people that get trained be appropriate and effective, and obviously they don't just take anybody, but if they effectively go through the program and succeed with that there is a job at the end of those things. I'm thinking maybe there's some way of developing something like that with the HOPWA. So.
Thanks, Cheryl. Jill, I see that you have your hand up. Or not? Oh, okay.
She
well,
was talking, but she's muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Jill.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Nice to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that I've been texting with Joss and Joycelyn, and this is for Tamara. They go to the Artist Collective on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 1. They're navigators, and they said that you're welcome to shadow them. So if you're, able to go on Thursday or next Tuesday, for an hour or so, just to shadow and see if there's a collaboration there. You can see how they're navigating folks to the job center programs, coupled with the fact that they can meet you and hopefully navigate people to us should somebody come through their doors. So
what were their names and what were the hours?
Joycelyn, isn't that who you saw at the job center that you know?
Yes, Joycelyn, and who was the other person I didn't hear?
And Josh Gilmore. But it's Joycelyn's stop. And Josh is just subs for her when she can't go. So Tuesday, Thursday, Artist Collective 9 to 1. So let's start that. Maybe we can start that collaboration and kind of see how they're navigating.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How much, Jill, is shadowing used in the work that you do? Because I always feel like sometimes people, when they're thinking about whether a job is right for them and what job would that be, that they don't have the background to really know what is available out there for them. And by doing things like shadowing or just getting more exposure to the different kinds of jobs that do exist, that could help stimulate, an interest in something. We cultivate that in youth, when people are very young, to kind of get them excited about something in school. But after that, what are the mechanisms to kind of get people excited about not just a job, but maybe a career?
Yes, so in our youth programs, we do have the paid work experience, which is a job shadowing. Vocational rehabilitation, BRS does job shadowing. They call it work experiences. So it is happening in that world. And to be honest with you, I don't work one-on-one with individuals, but I do help navigate them. And ask. If you don't ask, the answer is no. If you ask, you got a 50-50 chance. I had somebody who was interested in like testing water. So I called Fuss and O'Neill in Manchester and I said, hey, can I have somebody come out for a day and just see what the job entails? And they said, sure. And they went out and tested water for a day. So you can also just ask if the right person is like they talked about how Juan talked about how important the social worker was to him. If there is that person, our team here or the social worker that can kind of help set something up. I've done that.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, we now see how fast 60 minutes goes. So what I will do, thank you all for coming. What I'll do, give me about a day. I will make sure that this is converted and uploaded not only to YouTube, but to our Google drive and make sure everybody has access to it, as well as some minutes for the meeting. So we'll keep it really uniform and make sure that everything is good. So you can always refer back to it. If somebody new joins the team, they can just get caught up to speed, so on and so forth. Before we go, does anybody have any last minute things to say?
I just want to say thank you. I just felt like this was a great meeting, and I really appreciate all of the work that you have done, Brendan and Erica, that you have done to build this into an increasingly substantial initiative, and I'm really honored to be part of it.
Likewise.
Thank you. And just to remind everybody, for new folks especially, this meeting is every other Tuesday morning right now at 9. So it'll be in a couple weeks, 9 a.m.
All right, folks, enjoy your Tuesday, and I'll see you in
Thanks,
2 weeks.
everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.